Hey everybody, welcome back. Week 20 of the Other Side Sports Podcast. If you average 4 shows a month, that puts us at 5 months by that math.
Yeah,
So we're
crazy.
5 months doing this, almost a half a year. So I just realized if you look over my left shoulder, you'll see a Bengals blanket. Even though everybody knows I'm a Jags fan, so I'll give the story behind that. When I was a kid and I first really started getting into football, I didn't really get into football until a couple years ago, but I started. I became aware that football was a thing. I really liked Chad Johnson, so I clung to the Bengals. So my mom actually stitched this Bengal blanket for me. Shout out to Mama.
Oh, so it's homemade.
It is. It's homemade. Yeah,
Wow.
my mom actually
Shout
made
out-
that. My mom actually made
Shout
that
out to
for
Mama
me.
Powers.
Yeah, shout out. I know she's watching, so appreciate the blanket. I love you. But let's just dive right into it. We'll skip the courtesies. I don't care how you're doing today, Emmons. I know you're doing great. Living that
Always.
great Michigan life.
Yeah, it can't get any better.
Oh, you start school soon, dude. When do you start school?
Oh, a couple more weeks, so looking forward to that. Balancing this work and actual work.
Yeah. All right, so let's just jump right into it. We got 2 huge topics today. That's Major League Baseball and the National Football League, and that's it. The NBA actually
A
has
lot of stuff to cover, though.
The NBA actually has been quiet now.
Yeah, it's been quiet for once.
Yeah, it's been
Just
quiet.
LeBron James everywhere is what you see now.
Yeah, basically. So we're gonna talk about basically the trade deadline, and then we're gonna dive into a lot of stuff NFL. We're gonna be all over the place NFL, so we'll just hop right into Major League Baseball. Hall of Fame induction ceremony was a couple nights ago. A few guys got in that we're not going to talk about. We're going to talk about 3 primary guys. Those 3 primary guys being Vladimir Guerrero, Chipper Jones, and Jim Thome. 3 excellent hitters in their careers. All of them. Chipper Jones is actually a Gold Glove player, and I believe Vlad was as well. Jim Thome not so much on the defensive side of the ball, but again, all 3 of them are known for their offensive prowess. So, Mr. Emmons, I will ask you this question. You can only pick one.
Yeah, I know.
You're building a team around them. Are you taking Vladimir Guerrero, Chipper Jones, or Jim Thome?
It's between 2 for me. God, this is... I'm going to go with my original pick, although Vlad is making a tough case. I'm going to go with Chipper Jones. He's a 303 career hitter. He had 1,623 RBIs, but he averaged 105 RBIs a year, 30 home runs a year. I mean, averaging 30 home runs a year is 162 game average. That's pretty good. And not to mention, the couple Gold Gloves he won. I mean, he was an MVP quite a few times. But looking at Vlad's numbers, I almost got chased off the Chipper Jones train, but I stayed my course on Chipper Jones.
Now, if you're looking for dingers, Jim Thome is your guy.
Right. Without a doubt. He's got, 600?
Yeah, he's over 600. But I think if I'm going pure hitter, I like that you went Chipper Jones, and one thing that you didn't even mention about Chipper Jones, he's a switch hitter. He's the greatest switch hitter to ever play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no I'm going to bring in a right-handed guy to face the right-handed Chipper Jones. None of that, because Chipper Jones is switch hitter.
Right.
So you don't get that advantage. I am picking Vladimir Guerrero.
It was tough, but I had to stick with Chipper.
I love Vlad, and I love Vlad for one reason, and that's that man can hit any pitch that you throw at him. It doesn't even have to be over the plate, and he'll hit it.
He didn't wear any gloves either, did he?
He did not. You can go look at Vladimir Guerrero highlights, and you'll see pitches that bounce up to the plate. He hits them over the fence.
Yeah.
He does that man does not care. That man is nothing but a hitter. And his son just got promoted to AAA, finally. And so far, when the show started, he had 2 walks and a run scored in his AAA debut tonight.
If you really look at the numbers too, because Chipper had a 19-year career compared to Vlad's 16. I mean, Vlad's right there with RBIs, only about 100 and something less. And not to mention the arm he had
Yeah.
in the outfield from the corner.
Right.
That was another thing I loved about Vlad Guerrero.
Right. I like Tommy. He was a great hitter in his age. And
I don't like Tommy.
You don't like Tommy as a Tigers fan. But I think out of the three of them, if you were to put them in today's game, I think Tommy would have the most success.
Probably.
Because of launch angles.
Right.
So I think he would be the most successful in today's game. And Tommy, I believe, I have the stats pulled up, so I don't know why I'm saying I believe. I can just look at it.
I believe.
Tommy has the highest slugging percentage of all of the three of them, which is to be expected with a guy that hits for home runs. But he does have the lowest average for his career, and it's by quite a substantial amount.
That's why I was brought off of Jim Thome.
Yeah, because you've got Vlad is a career 318 hitter. Chipper's a career 303 hitter.
He's 276.
Yeah, and Tommy's 276. So, as far as...
And he played 3 more years than Chipper, and he only had like 20-something more RBIs.
And you can argue that, with today's advanced analytics that batting average doesn't tell the whole story. Batting average tells how often you get base hits.
Right.
And your on-base percentage tells how often you get on base.
You're on base. It's simple. It's just numbers.
And that's important. That's important. Being on base is important. You have to get on base to score runs. So, I'm going with Vlad. You're going with Chipper. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the three.
Oh, it's close. Really close.
So
I actually thought you were going to go Chipper, which is almost why I wanted to go Vlad, but because you could really either run away with either of them and be fine.
Oh yeah.
But I'm glad you went Vlad.
You're either going greatest Angels player to date. I mean, Mike Trout is going to surpass him. Or you're going greatest switch hitter to ever play with Chipper Jones. So you can't go wrong either way. So let's dive into this next one, and this is going to be the fun one, I think. We're going to talk about the MLB trade deadline that occurred today at 4 p.m. The trade deadline ended, so now they'll move into the waiver deadline period. So before we start talking about the trades that happened today, let's talk about three trades. I want to talk about three trades that happened before the deadline. One of those is the Red Sox adding Nathan Eovaldi from the Rays. The Yankees got J.A. Happ and Lance Lynn from the Blue Jays and the Twins. And then the Cubs added Cole Hamels from the Rangers. So
that was interesting.
All four of those guys that changed teams are starting pitchers. I just looking at it from afar, I think the Cole Hamels deal is going to be the most influential.
We talked about the Cubs and their pitching pretty much on the show. What was it, last week?
I believe so, yeah.
So, and then they go out and get a guy like Cole Hamels. So, I mean, like you said, I think it's definitely the one with the biggest effect on what's going to happen. I think the Yankees getting Lance Lynn and Happ is interesting, though, too.
I like the J.A. Happ ad because Happ's ERA is sitting at like a 4.3, I believe, somewhere in that range.
Right.
But his last 10 starts against AL East opponents, his ERA is like 2.5 or something. It's ridiculously low. And so for them to pick up J.A. Happ basically just to pitch against the Red Sox and interdivision teams, is a pretty good move for them.
Especially when you're back in the division, and who does he pitch the best against?
Right. So I like. I'm not sure how I feel about the Lance Lynn deal. Lance Lynn has had a very up and mostly down season pitching for the Twins, but I think with him coming to the Yankees, he'll get run support and he can log innings. So if he can log innings for them and keep them under 4 to 5 runs in 6 innings, they're okay because they can score a lot of runs. And then Eovaldi. Let's
talk about the trade that involved your home team here.
Oh, yeah. Eovaldi was solid for the Rays this year.
At least your team was active during the trade deadline.
My team was very active, and I'm very happy with their trades.
You should be.
So the Red Sox add Eovaldi. Eovaldi's a quality starter. He's a good. That trade especially looks good now since Chris Sale just got put on the 10-day DL and he's probably going to miss 2 starts. So that trade's really good, like looking good for them in the short term. But the long term, when you get into the postseason, if you don't want to start him, because when you get into the postseason, sometimes you cut down to like a 3-4 day rotation, then he can be a long relief bullpen guy for you as well. So I think that was a good addition to a Red Sox team that's best record in baseball.
Right.
So let's get to today's trades.
Yeah, why don't you run through them real quick, give these people updated?
Oh man, there are so many. I can't go through all of them because there's so many.
Yeah, the big ones. We don't need to talk about Leonys Martin.
you know, you guys gave up Kyle Dowdy too. He's a pitcher in your system for
involved in that trade
for Willie Castro. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, Dowdy's not in your top 30, so you're all right.
He's still just for another day.
So the Rays got Tommy Pham from the Cardinals for 3 minor league prospects. 2 of them are in the Rays top 30, so that was a good deal for both teams, I feel. Tommy Pham is under team control for the next couple years. He had a really good season last year, and he started really hot this season. He's kind of cooled off a bit, but he'll hopefully it wasn't a fluke, and he can pick it up the second half with a change of scenery. Emmons, you just feel free to jump in here whenever a trade pops up that you have some thoughts on. The Diamondbacks got Brad Ziegler back, so he used to pitch for them a couple years ago. They ended up getting him back from the Marlins because they need bullpen depth because they're planning on making a run. The Phillies added Wilson Ramos, the all-star catcher from the Rays. And the fact that they got him for a player to be named later or cash is actually a really good deal for them. They're not losing a ton of farm, if at all, and they get an all-star caliber catcher that can put them over the top if they plan to make a postseason run, which they plan to do.
The Phillies got him?
Right, the Phillies.
They also got Asdrubal Cabrera a couple days ago, didn't they?
They did get Asdrubal Cabrera. So that infield is actually
thanks to all who voted on that Twitter poll. That was actually a pretty close poll there.
So that trade, both of those trades are going to be huge for them.
Yeah.
That's really going to bolster their offense, and I think their pitching has been pretty good this season. Let's see. Then you got the Braves picking up Kevin Gausman and Darren O'Day, 2 really solid relievers from the Orioles, who basically gutted their entire starting roster today. Their whole MLB team gutted.
Kind of figured that when Machado was gone.
Right.
There, I mean,
I'm surprised Adam Jones is still there. So, I guess they just couldn't get a trade lined up to go along with that. Mariners, they ended up getting Cameron Maybin from the Marlins.
my boy.
That's an interesting trade because I think they only make that trade because D. Gordon is forced to play second through the Robinson Cano injury.
Right. I don't know what Cameron Maybin's numbers have been this year, but he's your hustle type guy. I mean, he can get you some numbers. He's not going to be like a phenomenal batter. I think his best year ever was when he played for us again a couple years ago. He batted over 300, I believe, but he's your kind of go-getter type of player. So it's not like, depending on what they had to give up for him, I don't think it's really they're going to really risk much of losing that trade.
Yeah, he's hitting 251 with a 338 on base percentage. I don't know
if he still can steal bases. I don't know if he's still stealing bases anymore.
He's only got 8 stolen bases this season. So he's not the same guy he used to be. But he's a veteran presence in the outfield for a team that needs it.
He's a team guy too.
And they don't need him to play well on the offensive side.
Just go out there.
Not with D. Gordon and Nelson Cruz, up there in Seattle. So
imagine that if Robinson Cano was playing, if he was playing well, and the way that team's playing this year.
And I think it'll be interesting if Cano is going to have enough games played to qualify to play in the postseason with his PED.
It's going to be close, isn't it? How many games do you have to?
I think you have to play at least 80 or 90 games, and he's suspended for 50. So he should make it back in time, but I'm not sure.
But things happen, injuries happen, and you don't play a sport for 50 games. I mean, you come in, you're going to be. Yeah. A lot of the time, that's when injuries happen.
Then you got my favorite trade of the day. The Rays trade Chris Archer for Austin Meadows, Tyler Glasnow, and a player to be named later. Glasnow and Meadows are under team control, I think, until 2022 and 2023.
Huge.
Both guys are under 24 years old. Austin Meadows burst onto the scene this year, was having a Rookie of the Year type season. He has fallen off a little bit since then, but his season is still solid. He's going to be a really solid fourth outfielder for the Rays with Kevin Kiermaier, Tommy Pham, and Malik Smith. So I'm personally, as a Rays fan, really excited for these trades that they made. And
sure.
Chris Archer is a top of your rotation guy, like an ace. He's going to take a Garrett Cole spot from when he got traded to the Astros. Chris Archer's numbers outside of the division were really good, but he had like a 4.2, like a 4.2 ERA inside the AL East. So getting him out of the AL East should really help him.
Yeah, because looking at his numbers, not in depth, he's got a 4.31 ERA to this date.
Right, and
win-loss I really don't look at.
I believe his ERA outside the AL East is like a 3.5, which is pretty good. And I think that's maybe not better than Jameson Taillon for the Pirates, but
he does strike out almost 10 guys per 9 innings, so he's still getting his strikeouts.
Right. Yeah, so he's still a solid player.
He's the type of guy that, I mean, I obviously don't watch as much Rays baseball as you have, but just knowing him and throughout his career, he's almost like the type of guy who's like he's got the stuff, right? It's just him putting it together all the time.
Right. I think his biggest problem is that he relies on 2 pitches, and it's a fastball slider combo, and he won't always have the slider going on any given day. Right. And if he doesn't have the slider going, it's kind of lights out for you, you know?
Right.
So then we got 2 more really big trades, and that's the Brewers getting Jonathan Schoop. This was a huge deal because they pulled Luis Ortiz, who's a top 30 prospect for the Brewers, and then they got Jonathan Villar back as well.
Right.
Villar is a solid veteran, but the Orioles are building for the future, and I'm actually surprised to see Schoop moved. I didn't think Schoop would move. I figured Adam Jones would be the one to go if somebody was going, but Schoop goes. That makes room for Ryan Mountcastle, one of the Orioles' top prospects, probably to come up and play a little bit. Tim Beckham will probably slide over to shortstop, and Mountcastle will play his natural position at third base.
I'm trying to.
And then the last one you got Brian Dozier to the Dodgers. So they're trading away Logan Forsythe and some prospects, and getting Brian Dozier from the Twins.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are pretty much locked and loaded for their run. The one thing I wanted to comment on, though, the Brewers with the move, I mean, they're 1 game back.
Yeah, I believe at the beginning of the year I picked the...
you did pick me and you both picked the Brewers to win the division.
I think I picked the Brewers to go to the World Series.
You did. I picked them to win the division, I'm pretty sure. I either picked them or the Cubs. I don't think I picked the Cubs, but I could have.
Yeah, see, I think I picked Astros-Brewers as the World Series matchup this year.
Mine was Indians and Dodgers? No, I picked Indians Nationals. Ugh.
Yikes. Ooh. Thanks for leading us into our next segment, Evans.
Calculated.
So with the trade deadline passed, I'll let you lead off with this one. The Nationals actually did nothing. They did nothing. They ended up getting Kelvin Herrera from the Royals, and they made 1 small trade for a reliever today. Other than that, they did nothing. They did not buy or really sell anything. Right. The question is, should they have been buyers, should they have been sellers, or should they have stayed put like they did?
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say this first. You are sitting here at the trade deadline. You're 5.5 games back. You haven't played well this year. Your superstar is struggling. And you're 5.5 games back. You got to decide. You got to be buyers or sellers. You can't stand pat. Like you're not 8 games ahead in first place and your team's fine and ready to go. You need some help if you want to go for the win.
They're like barely 500, right?
Yeah, they're under 500. They're 52 and 53.
They're under 500.
They're 5-5 their last 10. They're 23 and 20. They're actually 29 and 28 on the away and 23 and 25 at home. So you got to do something, and they should have sold. The fact that you have a guy named Bryce Harper, I know he's been struggling this year. You're not re-signing him. I think that's a pretty almost a well-known fact, I would say, that he's not coming back to the Nationals. I don't know if you agree with me on that or not, but so if you know he's gone, I'm sure you can get a decent haul for a guy named Bryce Harper, wouldn't you think? And if you want to go ahead and, I don't know. I mean, this team is in shambles, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, they're only 5.5 games back, but the talent that they have on their roster, there's no way they should be 52 and 53.
Nope.
The amount of if you could have gotten a haul for Bryce Harper, you're not getting anything back for him if he leaves for money. You're just going to be sitting there without Bryce Harper. They're huge. They're probably the biggest losers at this trade deadline, in my opinion. To be honest with you,
I will come to the Nationals' defense in one area. If Bryce Harper signs with another team, they'll get a conditional draft pick, probably at the end of the first round. And yeah, like that's not great, but do you know
it's something.
Do you know who was a conditional first round draft pick a few years ago?
Enlighten me.
Mike Trout.
Okay.
Mike Trout was a conditional first round draft pick that the Angels got when Mark Teixeira signed with the Yankees.
Can you imagine how lucky the Nationals would be, though, to be able to draft a guy like Bryce Harper and then get a conditional first-round pick and then get another guy of Mike Trout's caliber?
Luckily, they don't need to. They have Juan.
Right.
They have Juan Soto. Juan
Right.
Soto
You're
is this 19-year-old phenom who is going to
Right.
win Rookie of the Year this year in the NL, which is exactly why they should have sold at the trade deadline.
Right.
They don't need Bryce Harper to be mediocre, which they already are. You
Right.
have Juan Soto. They also have, and God, why Nationals?
What you need, buddy?
I'm gonna look up their top prospects because they've got another guy. They've got another guy who needs to
They got
come
a
up.
pretty decent farm system, don't they?
Victor Robles.
Yeah, that's the name that sounds familiar.
Victor Robles. Like, I assume Bryce Harper will walk at the end of this year, and Victor Robles is ready to come up and play. He can literally step in, take Bryce Harper's spot next to Juan Soto, and you don't even miss Bryce Harper at all. So
Right.
you could have traded him, got pieces back, and then looked good next year with Victor Robles and Juan Soto.
And then you got guys that are coming up to bolster the future even more with
Right.
those two that are already playing well.
Right. And I think the biggest problem for me is that Bryce Harper's a free agent after this season. Daniel Murphy is a free agent after this season. Kelvin Herrera is a free agent after this season, who you just traded for. And then not
How much
only
longer
that,
is Scherzer there for? I don't even know if he's having a good year or not.
Scherzer's having a good year. I'm not sure how much longer he's there. Probably at least 2 more years. But then you've got Anthony Rendon, who's your cornerstone third baseman, is only on contract till next year. So past next year, he's a free agent. So you're losing 3 of your key guys. If you take them out of the picture, you're left with Trey Turner, Juan Soto, and that's kind of it for your star power as far as that lineup goes. So you should have got a haul for Bryce Harper while you could.
I mean, I think it's safe to say you're getting a haul for Bryce Harper, right? Like, regardless of... I mean, I know his contract's up, but I mean...
You're definitely going to get something from somebody.
Right.
I look at the Astros. They would have probably given up Kyle Tucker. I don't know that the Nationals would have wanted Kyle Tucker because he struggled since he reached the majors. But to be fair, Bryce Harper has struggled too this year, other than hitting home runs. So Kyle Tucker plus some other top prospects would have probably worked for the Astros. But yeah, I don't think people are gonna really pay like a marquee price for a guy that only has half a year of control. Now
that's the thing that I mean, because you look at, I mean, given Bryce Harper name-wise is, better than JD Martinez, but I mean, the Diamondbacks didn't really give up a whole bunch for, JD when they traded for him. So
Right. So the interesting thing will be in a couple of years when Mike Trout is entering the, kind of the end of his contract. If the Angels, if they're not contending by then, which I don't anticipate they will be, because they're so tied up in that Albert Pujols contract, that maybe they try to move Trout a year earlier,
right,
so that they can get more of a haul back for him. And I see a team like Atlanta, who has 9 prospects in the top 100, as a team that would push for a Trout trade. In a couple years when Trout's contract starts to kind of get towards that 1.5 year left mark.
So, the controversy with surrounding the Osuna trade with the Astros. I know Verlander commented on it.
Yeah, that was that's going to be a weird situation because Verlander and Charlie Morton were so outspoken when one of the Astros prospects was seen on video beating his girlfriend in a stairwell.
Right.
And then the Astros adopted a no tolerance policy in terms of, towards domestic violence.
They
turn around and trade for a guy, Robert Osuna, who's suspended 75 games for domestic violence allegations. Yeah, I'm not sure where they're going with that.
I mean, I know Verlander's getting up there in age, but he's still a big part of your team, and you don't want to upset anybody on your team, let alone a star.
Yeah, well, what I find weird is that Verlander in his interview, because I don't really know what you would say in that situation, but he's like,
right.
Well, he's gonna have to come talk to us about the situation and all that. Like, what can you really say?
Right.
Like, unless you go to court and you get, kind of like a situation where she says, I made the whole thing up. I was just, we were fighting and I was scared. He didn't really hit me. Then you're kind of in a gray area. But as it sits right now, you're looking at, a guy who is being accused of this and on a team with a zero tolerance policy. So what are they?
Right.
What are the Astros going to do? And how is he
Right.
going to explain this?
Right, because, I mean, a huge part of any sport is chemistry. And if a guy is not accepted on the team, or if some guys accept him, some guys don't, then that splits the locker room. That's another thing you don't want. So, I mean, it's good. People might not be talking about it a lot, but I think it's going to be interesting to see if it does hurt their chemistry or splits the locker room up a little bit and, going forward.
The Astros are a tight-knit group. I don't know that it'll split the locker room necessarily.
Right.
But I could see Osuna as kind of like an outcast type.
Yeah.
So
they're what, 3 games up on the Athletics, still hanging around.
Oh man, I wish the A's would have made a trade.
Yeah, they didn't. It's just not the A style, I guess.
It's not. I wish they would have. They really
If they make the playoffs, they'll break the record with the lowest payroll ever to make the playoffs.
If they would have just got one piece,
Yeah.
I would have liked to see them go after Bryce Harper.
Oh my god.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, for sure. Him and Trout in the same division, even though the Angels are out of it. But
yeah,
I mean, not technically, but they're 12 and a half games back.
Yeah, anything can happen. But so let's move on to our personal teams.
Lovely.
So you already said Leonis Martin got shipped off.
It's ideal.
What else would you have liked to see the Tigers do at the deadline?
I don't. So any pieces we had besides Castellanos, but I don't think we really get what we would want for Castellanos, anyways. I mean, what's the point of keeping, even if you just get a bottom prospect, just take a chance at it. What's the point of keeping a Mike Fears or all these other guys, Shane Green, when essentially you're just blocking all these prospects that you're going to have in the minors who are ready to come up, kind of show what they got, and now you got these older vets kind of just sitting here, and you're not going to send them down, and you're not going to sit them, so you get nothing. I mean, this team last year they come out and say, it's dumb, we're blowing it up, we're starting over, and the next year you trade a Leonis Martin, and that's it. I mean, and your GM comes out and just says, well, it's a flooded market, the phones just weren't ringing. What? Let's be active. I mean, try something. You got to get rid of pieces. I mean, there's no point. Mike Fears is what really kills me. Is why is he still on this team? I mean, he's a decent year. You're not going to get a lot for him. But why are you keeping him here? What is he doing for this team? You know what I mean? You're at this point where you got to rebuild. Why are you keeping a guy like Mike Fears here? Even a guy like Shane Green. I'm not in the office, so I don't know what the offers were, if there were any offers. But if there were and you don't take him, I just don't get why not. This team isn't competing anytime soon.
If I were a Tigers fan, going into spring training next season, I would like to see Casey Mize get a spring training invite.
Yes.
Your number 1 overall pick this year. I wouldn't expect him to make the Major League roster, but I would like to see him get an invite to Major League camp. And
that's the thing too, you're horrible last year and you come dead last, you get the number 1 pick, and it's a year where not Trout was the number 1 pick, but there's no Harper, there's no Strasburg, there's no name like that. And you get Casey Mize, and most guys are like, yeah, he'll be a good 2-3 guy. So we are horrible the year that there's not a guy out there, and now this year, I mean, I don't care how decent they were playing this year early on, and they weren't even playing that good. The Indians were just atrocious early on. Why are we even like? How you're going to come into a year this year where there's a lot of bottom teams, right? We're like in a group of like 10 teams that are going to battle for a top 10 pick. I mean, I just don't see what the Tigers, what we're going for. I don't like our GM Alavila. I don't like any GM in Detroit besides one. So it's not a good time to be a Tigers fan. Before I let you talk about your Rays, JD Martinez and Verlander had a conversation at the All-Star game and pretty much just said, how the hell do we not win a World Series? And it's just like, guys, I don't know how. I don't, because those teams were loaded. And the Alavila thing just drives the fact that he brought Brad Ausmus back when he was hired and blows my mind. But before I go on a Tigers rant, I'm going to end it there and let you go ahead and talk about your Rays' big day.
Before we move on, you brought up JD Martinez. You might not remember, JD Martinez struggled in Houston with the Astros.
Yeah.
Before he went to the Tigers, he struggled.
For sure.
I believe the Tigers got him pretty cheap.
For nothing.
Pretty cheap. And then once he got to Detroit, he exploded, and now he's the hitter that he is.
He didn't even come in. He was at our AAA affiliate, the Toledo Mud Hens, and he was batting like high 400s, and they changed something in his swing, and he was hitting a bunch of home runs. They called him up, and he just tore it up, and like everyone was kind of like, maybe it's just like kind of like a hot streak. And then he continued the next couple of years, and he became my favorite Tiger, and then they shipped him off. But we had to. I mean, it was one of those things that I'm coming to the age where I try not to have favorite players because it is a business and players will leave. Very rarely anymore that you get a guy like a Chipper Jones that we talked about today who spent his whole career of 19 years in one team.
Right. What would I have liked to see the Rays do at the deadline? Your
team was very active compared to my team.
If I take out what they did, I didn't want to see them do anything.
Really? Okay.
I loved what they did. Every move they made is perfect. Maybe you get rid of, but I know they were trying. They were actively seeking trades for Sergio Romo and Adeiny Echeverria.
Yeah, at least you guys were trying to trade.
Yeah, they were actively trying, but nobody wanted the two of them. So that is a bullpen spot for a veteran guy and a roster spot for a veteran shortstop that we could use on our younger players that we're picking up. But they did an interview with the GM today regarding the Chris Archer, Wilson Ramos trades that happened, and basically what he said was, we're trying to be competitive while at the same time getting our young guys playing time at the major league level. So basically what's going to happen is Tommy Pham, Austin Meadows are going to stay in the majors. Carlos Gonzalez, or Carlos, what's his name? Carlos Gomez.
Yeah, Carlos Gomez.
Carlos Gomez is going to get cut, probably. He's going to probably get designated for assignment. And we'll move on from him in the outfield. And then we're going to have young guys. I think Matt Duffy is going to be a free agent this year. So that'll put Christian Arroyo at third base probably every day. Willie Adames at shortstop every day. And then Daniel Robertson and Joey Wendell rotating play at second base depending on lefty-righty matchups. Jake Bowers his nickname's Rake Bowers because he's killing it over at first base. Hit another home run tonight. So this team is in a really good position. I really like where they are for the future. That catcher that we just got from, oh God, I don't even remember who we got him from, but whoever we got him from, he's come out on fire, raking, playing well.
Makes trading Ramos easier.
It does. And is he going to keep it up? Probably not. But he looks good. He's off to a good start. That's good for his confidence. Not to mention that, we traded away Chris Archer. We traded away Evaldi. We still have Blake Snell, who's going to be our ace now. And then I completely forgot today until I was thinking about our future. We have guys, Brent Honeywell, Jose De Leon, Anthony Banda, three guys who are not pitching this year because of Tommy John, where they're all probably going to make it back next year. Right. And they'll make it to our to the majors at some point next season. So I mean, we've got a bright future ahead, and so I'm perfect with where they are on the on that front.
Rays are a team to look out for. They're really exciting come in the future, and that division is going to be crazy in the next few years, in my opinion.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be us and the Yankees. As much as I hate to say it, the Red Sox are on the upper side of that age bracket.
And they got to re-sign Mookie.
They got to re-sign Mookie. They're gonna have to re-sign Chris Sale. They're gonna have to decide what to do with David Price.
Right.
But they'll still be good. Don't get me wrong. They're still gonna be very good. With Benintendi, JD Martinez, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, I can keep going because their team is so good.
Yeah, they're loaded.
So let's move on to our last baseball topic before we hop into the NFL stuff. So in case you didn't see, All-Star Night, Josh Hader, pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, some racist and homophobic tweets from his past came up. And then the other night, Sean Newcomb was throwing a no-hitter for the Braves, and he was 1 out away. And in the midst of the post-game, some racist and homophobic tweets that he had sent out in his past came up, and the same thing happened to Trey Turner of the Nationals. So all of this is basically in like a 2-week period. So I'll ask Emmons, just from face value, do you think that this is a problem in Major League Baseball? Do you think baseball has like a racism problem?
This is such a tough question, because I mean, the social media thing, digging up people's past is one thing, and do people change? Yes, but I mean, some of the guys said, especially Hader from the Brewers. I mean, if he's serious, I mean, do you really just change your thoughts like that? I mean, people have beliefs. Not really paying attention to the sport, every day. Just from the outside looking in, I'd almost say almost every sport probably has at least somewhat of a racist problem. So I would think baseball probably has somewhat of a problem. I don't know if I'd go out and say that it's like glaring, but I do think. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't know. The whole racism subject is a very tricky subject to discuss, and with different people's beliefs and everything. I don't really know which way to go with this, to be honest with you. Because I mean, it's tweets, it's social media, but at the same time, it's also things that they thought out and put onto social media where they know that it's going to be there forever. So I mean, were they young and dumb? Yeah, I mean, we all were, but I've never tweeted stuff like that before. I mean, right. People can go on my Twitter. I'm not going to have people searching because we're not obviously don't have the fandom as a Milwaukee Brewers pitcher, but I've never, I mean, we're around the same age as some of these guys now. Back then, you already knew that stuff was going to be out there forever. So the fact that they had the audacity to go out there and say those terrible things, it's treading water there, I guess is the word I'll put.
So the only thing I'll say on this topic, and you can take it for what you will, John Lester actually spoke out on this, the pitcher for the Cubs, former Red Sox, and he said, you young guys should take 5 minutes to go and check your Twitter history to make sure you've never posted anything like this. And then he went on to say, well, you should never think this way to begin with.
Right, exactly.
But I think the afterthought of that is what got to me. It wasn't that he didn't come out and say, you should never think this way, and if you feel that you ever might have said something, you might need to go back and check your history. Your post history. He said you need to go clear your post history first. Like that was the first thing that popped into his mind. Not, hey, don't think this way, but hey, go clear your post history. So that's kind of what stood out to me.
The one thing that stood out to me out of this whole thing is that the Brewers, when Hader came back, he got a standing ovation, and as the person I am and the beliefs I have, I mean, we're not going to get into that. I mean, we're a sports show, so I mean, we're not going to get into, our beliefs and everything, but that just disgusted me. I mean, is he a terrible person? I don't know the guy. I don't know. But what I do know is that he said horrible, hateful, disgusting things on social media where he knows everybody can see it. And then he gets welcomed back with open arms like nothing ever happened. Like he didn't say anything wrong.
You can be sure that going forward across all all professional sports, because this even happened to DiVincenzo from Villanova.
Yep.
As soon as people sign with agents, agents are going to hire somebody to go through Twitter history
Yep.
and delete stuff.
Here's another job for us out there now.
Yep. So that's exactly what it's going to be. Or they're going to have the kids delete their Twitter accounts and start brand new ones.
Yeah,
is what it'll be.
Because if you do anything like DiVincenzo, he came out of nowhere and just started tearing it up, and then of course, why not go search his Twitter history?
Because that's the thing to do now. As soon as somebody's having success,
and
go check their past.
And that's the thing. I mean, are we really that desperate to
a terrible thing
expose
to,
people?
It's a terrible
but
thing
at the same time, why are you even saying those things to begin with?
Right. So let's move into the NFL. We're running a little short on time, so we're gonna have to power through this a little bit. But training camp is finally here for the NFL.
Thank God.
Thank God. Football is back. John, how you feeling about your Detroit Lions so far in training camp?
It's kind of interesting because everybody knows we hired Matt Patricia, right? Patriots guy. The thing that might be less known is that our GM is Bob Quinn, former right-hand man to Bill Belichick. And not that we're going to be the next Patriots or anything, because, that's not going to happen. That's the Patriots are their own machine. But they don't talk. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, there's rarely is there anything that's, like, Matt Patricia doesn't comment on much. An interesting thing, before training camp happened, Darius Slay was out there, and they asked him, how's the team look? How's the team going to be this year? What's going on? And he even said, do you think I want to get yelled at by coach? Like, so it's a tight-lipped, what do you call it? Not program, but a team, whatever.
Franchise.
Franchise. So you don't really hear much. You kind of just get these random tweets about what's going on at the training camp practice of what you can know. Marvin Jones got leg injury. He seems okay.
Do the Lions not have open practice?
I think it's only open. They have it some, but I know it was closed. But the press is allowed in.
Oh,
but
wow. Interesting.
Matt Patricia doesn't talk really much about the team. I do think they will have like some kind of fan practicing where you can go, but I'm not sure on that, to be honest. But the last couple of years, it's been every single newspaper article you look at, in-depth details about how the Lions players look right now. You don't hear much. I just heard about Marvin Jones' injury, and that was it. I heard about some interception a defensive tackle had, but that was about it too. I'm not hearing about any of the guys. I did hear Kenny Galladay's looking good, which I'm really excited for him because when he played last year, he was dangerous. How I'm feeling about the team, I don't know. How I feel about the Lions every year, 8-8 maybe. So
we'll get into that. Save that. We'll get into that.
I'm excited, as I am always as a Lions fan. Really, very hard to disappoint me as a Lions fan, as I've been disappointed many years. But this is a prime. It's got to be done. Before I let you talk about your Jags, the most interesting thing to me about the Lions is they really created it interesting with extensions. Matthew Stafford's got 5 years, Bob Quinn's got 5 years, and Patricia's got 5 years. So it's pretty much, hey guys, this is your 5 years. Let's do it. If it doesn't, it's time to start over yet again for the Lions.
So how am I feeling about the Jags? There's one thing that gets me, and one thing I check Twitter every day, and I see updates about this happening at Jags camp, this happening, because the Jags have open practices. You can go online, you can register. They have limited slots. It's free, but you just have to register in time, to hit their limit. And then fans can show up and they watch practice just as the media does. So I see stuff all day long about Jags training camp. As long as one thing doesn't happen, I'm okay. I do not want to see A.J. Boye or Jalen Ramsey helped off field with injury. I don't want to see one of those two things.
That's kind of my feeling when Marvin Jones I saw a tweet that he was getting helped off the field and walking gingerly. That's one thing that couldn't happen for us.
So I saw on Twitter some Jags fans were like, it's ridiculous that Ramsey's not at camp. He's supposed to be a leader. This is ridiculous. How's he supposed to lead these guys when he's not there? Well, the guy just had his first daughter. Right. He's in Nashville. He's with his girlfriend. He's making sure his family is good. I'm okay with that. Stay away. Take care of your family.
Yeah, totally.
Don't get hurt. Don't get hurt in training camp.
We know Jalen Ramsey's good enough.
Yeah, because even Jalen Ramsey at 90% is better than 90% of any corner in the league.
I agree.
So I'm okay with Ramsey not being there. Taven Bryant has looked excellent from what I've seen. I was
going to ask about Taven.
He's looking great. Calais Campbell's taking him under his wing. It's looking like Leon Jacobs is probably going to take Miles Jack's spot, who is going to take Paul Posluszny's spot as the middle linebacker for the team.
I like that move.
Leon Jacobs, the rookie 6th-round draft pick, he's looking like the front runner for that starting spot. I would also assume he's going to rotate time with Donald Payne and Blair Brown as well. So I'm excited about that. Yannick is looking great. He's putting O-linemen down. He's getting by him in one-on-one drills. So he's looking really good. Cam Robinson is looking good as well. He went up against Taven Bryan and kind of manhandled Taven a little bit.
Welcome the Rook to the league.
And Ronnie Harrison is apparently also getting really high praise. So I'm really excited for this Jaguars
There is
team.
2 names that I've heard a lot about, and it's Frank Ragnow, who is not going to play center. He will be guard. I think left guard he will be playing because TJ's still over at right guard. And then a local name for you who's fully healthy this year, which he really was on and off last year, Teez Tabor, has raised a lot of eyebrows apparently for the press. Apparently, from reading, he's been lining up outside more and getting more reps than Nevin Lawson. So, which I'd be a huge fan of. I got to see some more from Teez, however you say his Teez. I'm not a Nevin Lawson fan, so of course I am rooting for his replacement as much as possible. I got to see more from Teez. Another kid I'm a fan of is Killebrew. And because we got to do something because Glover Quinn is not getting any younger. And I like Quandre Diggs at one of the safety spots, but we're going to have to get another guy. So obviously the Jags is going to be looking for a more successful season than the Lions. And me, I'm looking more of, if Jared Davis grows because he's going to be the face of that defense. That's what we drafted him for. I know Darius Slay's there, but Darius Slay's in the high end of his 20s. Corners don't generally age well. So I'm interested to see how Jared Davis progresses. Our D-line's atrocious. Ziggy Ansah's already on the PUP list. So not looking for much there. O-line need to be a lot better this year. And Kerryon Johnson and LeGarrette Blount, sounds like Amir Abdullah might get cut. So that project's over. So a little more excitement, I'd say, coming out of your camp than mine. But I got Matthew Stafford, so that's all I care about.
So let's hop into this new helmet policy that's going. The NFL is going around and kind of demonstrating to teams this new helmet tackling policy. Basically, the gist of it is you cannot lead with your helmet, making tackles on the offense or the defensive side of the ball. So if you do any kind of leading with your helmet, it's going to result in a 15-yard penalty. Possible ejection from games and possible suspensions. I know DJ Swearinger and Richard Sherman have already came out and said that this thing is not going to go over well the first couple weeks and is going to be an issue. So what are your feelings on that?
I feel like football's in a.
Let's keep it kind of brief because we got a lot.
I feel like football's in a tricky spot where it's football. I mean, hitting is part of the game. I'm all for the safety of the players, but keeping it short, I guess I'll just say, in my opinion, I mean, you're coming in as a player, and yes, I care about the health of the players. You kind of know what you're getting into, man. I mean, I feel like they're almost changing the game too much to where there's going to be so many tackling rules that how do you even teach anybody how to tackle anymore, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I mean, I get the protection for the players. I don't want to see anybody get CTE or any kind of injury, but I don't know, man. It's there's so many technicalities and different rules that they're trying to add in the sport that I don't know if it's good or bad for the sport. In the long run, it could be good, but for now, like you said, Richard Sherman, and I mean, those are players saying it's not going to go well, at least for the first couple of weeks for sure.
And I think the big reason the NFL is doing this is really to protect themselves because
we know they don't care about the players, dude.
They're starting to take a lot of heat from the CTE, research that's happening, and not only that, but I believe they've been sued for issues regarding player health after retirement. So I think the only way that the NFL is really going to be able to kind of revert some of these rules is if they get players when they sign on with the NFL to agree that they know the risks of football,
right,
and that they will not take legal action after they retire or at any point during their careers in regards to medical issues. So I think that's the only way they get around that. So that's all my bit on it. I think, like they said, I think it's going to cause some issues. because I read a thing right before we went live that Ron Rivera had to pull one of his rookies aside and say, hey, that hit you made just cost us a 15-yard penalty and a possible ejection if this was a real game. So, you're going to have to get used to that. So.
And kids have been taught, those kids that are coming up now, just out of college have been taught their whole lives on tackling a certain way. And, some guys still don't really know how to tackle in the NFL, but
and I think
the technique
a big part of
changing.
I think a big part of the wording was intent.
And that's the same thing with college.
That's like
the targeting rule is like an intent thing. It's like, how do you judge that, dude?
Right. It's going to be a wishy-washy area where some officials might call something and some officials won't.
I gotta show you some targeting video that were called in college that were intent, and it's like, how do you even prove there was intent there?
So we'll move on to next segment that we're going to be doing. We're going to do this one, and then we're probably not going to do another one until college football season starts the 1st of September.
A little bit of a tease into what we're going to be doing here.
Yeah, just a little bit of a tease. So basically what we're going to do is every week we're probably going to pick, let's say 5 college football games and maybe 3 NFL games that we're going to do like a pick 'em for. We'll pick the winners. We'll give our reasons why we're picking the winners, and then we'll kind of keep like a running score between the two of us, and then we'll put some poll questions out on Twitter as well.
Yeah, to see if you guys are smarter than me and Josh.
And you guys can vote who you think will win every game each week, and then we'll keep the 3 individual records of all the pick'ems, and at the end of the seasons we'll reveal who has the best record as far as that goes. So for our first one, we're going to do the Hall of Fame game, Bears versus Ravens, and then again we're not going to do another one until probably college football season starts, and then we'll carry it all the way through college football and all the way through NFL football up until after the Super Bowl. So our very first one, Bears versus Ravens. Mr. Evans, as a practice, we won't count this one towards the official record.
So no pressure. So I can have fun with this one.
Yeah, no pressure. Who are you taking?
All right. I'm going to go with the Ravens. As much as I love the Bears, I think the Lamar Jackson factor could be a little interesting. A little bit. No one's seen him in person yet, and I'm sure you're going to see a decent amount of Lamar Jackson in this game. Although I do love the Bears defense, as we all know. I got ripped for my pick as them in the top 5 defense, but we'll get to that when the season ends. But
we'll see.
if I just had it's not really an enticing matchup, so I'll just go with who has the most exciting player on the team, and I'll go with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson.
I'm going Ravens as well for a different reason. I believe Robert Griffin III will probably get the most action out of all the quarterbacks in this game.
That's quite true.
And he's the most experienced out of all, between Mitchell Trubisky and whoever else the Bears have as backup.
Is Glennon still there?
No, Glenn's gone. So
was he playing football, or is he just?
Yeah, I think he ended up getting picked up by a team.
Who's Chicago's back? No, go ahead and give me your bid. I want to go ahead and look at that.
Glennon's with the Cardinals now.
Okay, I'm gonna go look at the Bears.
Yeah,
you go ahead and.
But yeah, I think Robert Griffin is more experienced than whoever the Bears have as a backup. So I'll roll with the more experienced quarterback on the Ravens team, and take the Ravens as well. So that was our nice.
Look at that. Hopefully we don't agree on that much during the pick 'em. We're gonna have to.
So that was our nice practice run. So let's jump into these AFC South. These AFC South standings.
Chase Daniel and Tyler Bray.
Chase Daniel.
Yeah, so I guess I'd take RG3 over those two.
So let's jump into these AFC South standings. I'll lead this one off since it's my division.
Sweet. I let off last time too. So
close to my heart. So we've got Colts, Jaguars, Texans, and Titans in the AFC South. I'm going to start at number 4. So as the number 4 team in this division, I have the Indianapolis Colts completing a 5-11 seed, 5-11 record, finishing 4th in the division. Biggest win, I have them going week 1 over Cincinnati. I also have them picking up wins over Washington, Buffalo, Tennessee at home, and Miami at home. But that's 5 wins for them. I just don't think this team is ready. I think they are 1 or 2 years away from being able to contend, even with Andrew Luck back.
Yeah. Do you want to go through your next 3? You want to go kind of by a team-by-team thing?
I'll go through my next 3,
okay.
Then because I think that'll be a little quicker. So as far as 3rd in the division, finishing at a respectable...
3rd and 2nd is tough.
Finishing at a respectable 8-8, I have the Tennessee Titans. They pick up their biggest win of the season, Week 14 against Jacksonville at home. to push them to an 8-8 season. I just don't think Mariota is. They barely made the playoffs last year, and with Deshaun Watson coming back, even if he's half what he was last year, he's better than Savage. So they'll compete in that division, especially if Watt and Merciless can stay healthy, and Clowney. And then coming in at 10-6, finishing second in the division, and claiming the 6th seed in the AFC playoffs, I have the Houston Texans. They pick up their biggest win week 17 against the Jaguars. So I have the Jaguars losing 2 division games. But I think the Jaguars will be resting starters that game, so that's why I have them winning that game, personally. Deshaun Watson back, all those defensive pieces back. Picking up Tyrann Mathieu is a good pickup for them. So I believe in this Texans team, not to the point where I think that they challenge the Jaguars for the division title, but enough that they secure a 6th seed in the playoff spot. And then number 1,
your Jags,
coming in at 13-3, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lose week 6 at Dallas, week 14 at Tennessee, and week 17 at Houston. I have them beating New England because New England will be without Edelman. I have them beating Philadelphia because that game is in London, and teams do not travel well to London against Jacksonville historically. And then I have them beating also Pittsburgh Steelers week 11 because that is at home in Jacksonville. Jacksonville hates Pittsburgh now. That game will be one of the most crazy home games of probably the past 5 years for the Jags. So that's going to be a great game.
I wish we disagreed a little more here, but I feel like this division, as tough as it is, I feel like it's pretty easy to pick it. I think the Colts come in 4th at 6-10. I give them one more win than you do. I have them beating Houston at Houston. I also have them beating Tennessee. I think Andrew Luck can go if he's healthy. I mean, we got some people that we know talking about how good he's looked in practice, and the whole we'll see bit. But I think Andrew can win you a couple games. I'm not in love with the roster is my biggest thing. They drafted some O-line pieces. How good are they going to be? I mean, I think Quentin Olson's going to be a stud. Do I know? No. So just looking at what I have in front of me as the roster, I have them going 6-10. Like I said, they beat Houston, which is probably their biggest win. Also have them beating Tennessee.
Plus, you got to look at how Malik Hooker is going to bounce back from that leg injury.
Right, and I can't even really think of a lot of pieces on their defense that really excite me besides Malik. And then you got Tennessee coming in at 3rd. You had them at 8-8. I have them at 9-7. So I have Indy and the Titans winning one more game. I think the win that's surprising on their schedule that you probably didn't have, just for a little spice, and I think Tennessee can win some games. I have them beating New England they're at home against New England. Other than that's obviously their biggest win. You can debate it because I haven't beaten Philly as well.
Wow.
So they win some big games, but what Tennessee is, I think they're a team that could lose some games too that they shouldn't lose. So I had them coming in at 9-7. Mariota struggled, and I don't know what the real Mariota is going to be. I'm not really confident in him, but snuck into the playoffs, I guess. Coming in at 10-6, I have the Houston Texans. Like you said, Deshaun Watson's coming back. If he can perform like he did last year, Texans could be a team to watch out for. I don't think they will, but they have the best chance of threatening the Jags, in my opinion. Their biggest win would come week 17 against Jacksonville. Actually, no, because Jacksonville will be resting starters. Their biggest win of the year comes week 1 at New England.
Wow. You're going to say the Texans are going to beat New England on the road.
At New England week 1.
That's a hot take right there.
That's what we provide. We got to provide some hot takes in the show. I got a feeling. I can't explain it. On paper, it doesn't make sense. But J.J. Watt's going to be there week 1, right? Jadeveon Clowney is going to be there week 1.
J.J. Watt might not make it out of week 1, but he'll be there week 1.
He'll be there. He'll be there for part of week 1, okay? All right. Just enough to get them to beat the Patriots. We'll talk about the Patriots, and I'll get into more of a reasoning on that game. I don't want to really give away my Patriots prediction this year. So That would be their biggest win because, like you said, Jacksonville, in my opinion, with what I have them going, will be resting starters in that game. Then I also have the Jaguars coming in at 13-3. I had them 14-2 at one point, and that game that was really throwing me off. I had two games that were really kind of throwing me off, and it was that London game that, like you said, teams don't really travel out of London playing Jacksonville, but I do have Philly beating you guys. I also have the Dallas loss. That was a really big game that I was going back and forth on because I do think you guys are a better team than Dallas, but going to Texas to play
to Dallas against a team that excels with running the ball is going to give Jacksonville trouble.
Yeah. And then obviously the third loss is at Houston, week 17, which is what the game that gets potentially gives the Texans a chance to get in there as a wild card.
Sounds good, dude. All I care about is Jags going 13-3. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, you're gonna have more fun talking about your team than I will with the NFC. But so enjoy this. I hope your team does as well as we think they will this season. Because I've been seeing some. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on. I mean, I've a show that I totally and a guy that I really don't like at all. But there's some Colin Coward, however you pronounce his name, is saying you guys could go like 9-7.
Let me
8-8, 9-7, and then something guest he had on Josh Schwartz, the former offensive lineman, was saying he thinks you guys come third in the division.
Interesting. See, now I can see more losses on our schedule.
Oh yeah, I agree. I don't think 13-3 is like a sure thing or anything.
Especially to the Giants, the Chiefs.
Yep.
The Eagles, the Steelers.
They got a lot of big games in their schedule.
They do, and the teams that scare me are the teams that can run the ball.
Yep.
The teams that can throw the ball don't worry me as much because we had the number one pass defense last year. Right. So those teams don't worry me as much. I would rather face a team that comes in as a high-rated pass offense than a team that comes in as a high-rated run offense. So I think if we're going to drop games, it's going to be the teams that can run the ball, like the Giants are going to probably plan to do with Saquon Barkley, like the Titans will plan to do with Derrick Henry, and like the Chiefs will probably lean on doing with Kareem Hunt with Pat Mahomes back there.
Right.
So I think those are tricky games where if our D-line does not show up in those games, and as far as blocks, shedding blocks in the run defense, those could be problematic.
Agreed.
So we'll close out the show. Just to recap, we both had the exact same standings. Jags 1, Texans 2.
I was going to say,
Titans
did we have
3.
the same exact standings for last week too? Oh no, I had Bengals last. You had Ravens last. So we did disagree on something last week regarding this.
We did. So we agree on that.
I feel like the NFC will be more spicy than the AFC division wise.
Probably. It probably will be. So I'm going to close this out with
new segment.
A new segment. Not as lengthy as what's on my mind, just a kind of quick what we call forward thinking. Basically, we're just going to call something out that's coming up in the sports world that we're excited to watch, over the next couple weeks. And I'm going to say I had a different one coming into this segment tonight, but I'm changing it now that I'm here. I am really excited to watch this new look Tampa Bay Rays lineup. I'm ready for Tommy Pham to get into the lineup. He'll be there tomorrow night, Kevin Cash said. I assume Austin Meadows will make his way into the lineup sometime over the next couple days. And then we picked up Beeks from the Red Sox in the Eovaldi deal. He struggled in his first start against the Orioles, but I'm hoping he can turn that around as he gets some more starts under his belt and works with our pitching coach, who is an excellent guy, excellent coach. So I'm really, really excited for this young new look Rays lineup for the second half of the season, and I would love for this team to finish above 500. They're sitting at 500 right now. Realistically, I would like an 85 win season if we can get there. It's going to be a long shot because we have a lot of division games left in the year against the Red Sox and the Yankees, but we also get to play the Blue Jays and the Orioles, who are bottom tier. So I'm excited for this new look Rays lineup.
Yeah, they're a young team. They're going to be fun to watch.
So that's going to be all for our show for today. Again, everybody, thank you so much for watching, whether you watch live or you watch on YouTube. Like John said, we're in week 20 now. So we have a ton of fun doing this. We hope you have a ton of fun watching and listening to us. So if you guys have any topics or anything you would like talked about on the show, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter. You can also leave a comment on a YouTube channel. I do check that occasionally, basically every time I upload a video. So feel free to reach out to us in that aspect. So again, comment, like, subscribe, whatever on all those different.
Best way to contact us would probably be Twitter, and our personal Twitters are in our bio on the Other Side Podcast Twitter, or you can just DM us on there as well. So
right,
Twitter's probably your best bet.
So again, thank you so much for listening and supporting, and we hope you guys enjoy it as much as we do. And everybody, have a good night. Appreciate it.